everybody. So some people are starting to connect, and we will address the message as well to our attendee on the different booths, so they can make sure they can join us. Hello, Anne Beatrice, Fanny, Julie, Mathilde, Naomi, people are connecting. Okay, let's wait a few seconds if you don't mind, Valérie, Elena.
No worries. Okay, a few minutes.
I hope you all enjoy the experience on the platform, and very, very interesting workshop today. I received a few emails already in the past few days, people asking, will I understand what I need to do? I said, most probably, after we can help you.
It's a glimpse of tips, yes.
Exactly. So people are starting to join us, but if you don't mind, Valeria, I will leave you the floor. People will keep going to join us. And I remind all the attendees that it is a live conference, interactive conference. So you got this Q&A feature at the end, at the bottom of your Zoom windows. Feel free to use it and ask as many questions. Polyglot took a little bit of their time to make sure that they can answer to this business community, and they are experts in their field. So take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you again, Polyglot. Thank you, Valérie. Thank you, Elena. And Alex, I know working around you, make sure that everything is fine. I'll leave you the floor, and that's it. Thank you so much again. Thanks all attendees as well.
Thank you, Jérôme. So I'm good to start? Good, perfect. So thank you, everyone. Just to introduce briefly ourselves. So I'm Valérie Bonens, and I'm in charge of all the key account and talent management for ANZ at Polyglot Group. And Elena, who is next to me, is one of the senior consultants of our team. And we'll be here today to give you a few data and insight on how to navigate in your job search during this COVID context. I'm also often asked what will happen post-COVID. I don't have a crystal ball, and I used to say that COVID will be with us for a long time. So it's more, how do we keep building our career in that COVID context, and keep taking on new opportunities, because time borders will not be reopened, and it's going to be again for a little while. Things will not be totally back to normal for the next 12 to 18 months. So let's go and go through the presentation. You can ask questions along the way. Elena will monitor the questions. She will respond to some of them at the end. And if you can't treat all of them, we will ask your contact details, and we can call you and give your reply if it's very specific to your own career path. Or yes, okay, let's go. So at Polyglot, we are a one-stop house HR boutique where we assist international companies to grow in Australian market, but as well local Australian companies to grow outside in the Europe mainly, and US and South Africa, where we also have subsidiaries. Part of our department, our talent acquisition, which is a big part of our activities, and so we have a very strong knowledge of international workforce, international group, but as well local companies and what they like with the local workforce. In terms of the current job market, so a bit of data briefly. So at the moment, the nationwide unemployment rate is close to 7%. The good news is that it has tended to reduce since July, and we can really see that with talent acquisition in our talent acquisition team and with other talent acquisition professionals we interact regularly with, that there is a trend over the last 2 to 3 months that market is picking up. There is more job coming up. And obviously, the fact we are not in lockdown in New South Wales helps, and Victoria has been a bit more quiet over the last few weeks, but we can see things restarting. And as well, company adjust to lockdown and stop. It's not the same effect as the first one where everything was frozen. We can see companies and hiring manager to navigate with the new normal in terms of their hiring policies. So, yep. There is something of which is very interesting in our sector. We decided to present you 3 market misconceptions. I think a lot of employers, so like it would be a full employer market in that pandemic. And we see with our daily job how it has not been as difficult to attract good candidates in new position, because people tend to get stuck where they are and wait and see for the next 6 months. So you have to, as a candidate, take into account of those misconceptions as well on the way you will present yourself and the way you will present your resume. There is an abundance of quality candidates at the moment. It's one of the misconceptions. There is heaps of candidates. We never had so many applications when we post a job. Prior COVID, obviously, most of the placements were through headhunt, direct approach, but we had way less to treat in terms of application. People tend to apply to everything and nothing. So it creates much more volume for recruitment agencies, as well as for internal HR and internal talent acquisition in companies. That in mind, in parallel of that, you as a candidate needs to be aware that in most of talent acquisition agencies, team has been reduced between 10 to 30%, with many support work has been made redundant. So people who screen the resume, select for the consultant, do a first screening. So it means that, and same in companies, a lot of internal talent acquisition has been put part-time or reduced hours. So your resume, your candidature can be easily missed in the volume. It's hence why it needs to be super visible, spot on to the job you are applying. Another misconception is candidate salary are reduced. We were keeping hearing like, oh, candidates will have like super good value for money candidates in that market because everyone will need a job. That's not true. Candidate salary, on the opposite, are holding stronger because before people were more opportunities to change from a company to another one. But during this COVID context, talent tend to, when things are doing quite okay in their company, tend to hold on tight and wait and see that we are getting close to a vaccine or whatever, like a border reopen, to feel more secure to change employer. Because in the mentality, it's a lot first arrive, first to live in a restructuration plan. So one of the main motivation as well at the moment from candidate to change for a side move, especially if it's quite a side move, is to compensate that risk with a gap of salary. In parallel of that, as the borders are closed, as you know, the movement of international workforce is way lower than in the past. Still, company can sponsor and have people, but it takes much longer time. It's quite a hassle. You have then the quarantine and so on. So it's quite limited to very specific position or senior management or expat, really proper expat contract. Means that the rest of the companies who have some needs need to be very attractive and to deal with what there is on the market at the moment in terms of talent, and can't have as easily as before those good value for money international workforce that they could pay a bit less than the local, offering a sponsorship. Another misconception is candidates in role should feel lucky to have a job. So why should I bother too much to pamper my employees? Because lucky we have a job. As a recruiter, we spend our day talking with candidates on career opportunities, on career orientation, and what really result of people who are not actively looking on position, but with whom we engage for future opportunities. And again, it's really common with a lot of professionals of recruitment who are talking with. Employees do not show necessarily their unhappiness at work at the moment because of this uncertain market, but we can feel that within few months they will be ready to leave for some of them, even if some has navigated through really hard restructuration in their company. I've been lucky to keep their job, but I've been a bit scared of how the things in the precipitation has been taken care of. As well, sometimes company culture can have been affected by all the changes, the stress as well in the business that the businesses have met over the last few months. And there is that talent LinkedIn Insight search, which shows that 39% of candidates has been dissatisfied the way the employer have navigated through the pandemic up to now. And what happened, especially in April, May, June, we can see the effect, but people tend to wait again another 6 months before deciding to move on. It's often what we see with people we want to attract, to be sort of closer to the reopened border, or closer a vaccine can be released, to feel more confident to jump into uncertainty with a new employer. So, but that's a fact. Top 3 current hiring challenges that we face is there is, as we say, a large volume of candidates, but few suitable or relevant candidates. So if you are on a job search, if you are unemployed at the moment, I know it's very stressful, but try to target and have a very clear strategy of where your skills are transferable, which industry you come from, to optimize your chance, because at the moment you can really be lost if it's not accurate to what you are applying. The time spent in shortlisting and getting with an extensive number of candidates as well makes that the process of hiring a bit longer for employer, and for candidates you need to be ready to that as well, because people work remotely, are part-time, reduced hours, so a bit harder to settle with companies interview. Plus candidates, if you are an employer, you need to be ready that candidates need a bit more time or extra miles to get convinced by a change when they are in a current role and everything goes pretty okay. As we say, strong and suitable candidates are quite unwilling to move due to the fears around the job security to join a new employer. You know what you lose, you don't know what you gain with a new employer. So that opportunism in very more jumpy profiles than in Europe, for instance, tend to lower a bit. People tend to hold it. So saying that, if you are a candidate during this uncertainty of COVID, based on what we said before, it's really important for you that your resume needs to stand out more than ever, okay? And you need not just one to succeed. You need to have like one which is a base resume, and it's really important to adjust it to what you apply, to the company you target. You need to bespoke more than ever your resume in your job search to be relevant, as well, because employers want to lower the risk even more than before. Some industries have been quite affected in terms of their business or volume of business, and they don't want to take the risk. They want the soft skills are very key at the moment, with the ability to be flexible and agile in your work. So everything needs to transpire. We try to sum up some common resume mistakes that we see very often in European profile, often the one freshly arrived in Australia, because usually when you have your first line in Australia, you know better outwork the local market, and it's quite specific to French talents as well. Some other European countries are a bit more aligned with Anglo-Saxon way to present their profile on the resume, but just few things. Because when we do open career discussion, we see so often resume with a photo. No photo in Australia, in the UK, or it's really it will be on the opposite, and especially if you are female, it will be reducing your attractivity for an employer. No marital status, no date of birth. In terms of the location where you are based, just name your city. You don't need to give your full address, and put referees, but don't give your referees too quickly. It's always the same. There is always good people in this recruitment market, and some who are a bit more cowboy. And I always say to people, your referees are your own property. You put that you are a referee upon request on your resume, and you give them to the recruiter or to the future employer toward the end of the process. Like that, you can control as well. Let know your referees that they will be reached out, because referees can be used at BD purpose by some recruiter. So just be aware of that. In terms of the length of your resume, except if you are a postgraduate, your resume shouldn't be just in one page. And especially if you are quite qualified with 5 years of experience or above, and in management or even more exec. I know that in Europe and in France, to have everything stuck in one page. No, here, no. It needs to be a bit more detailed. The way you will fasten for the person who read your resume to get into your resume is to create what we call a box of career snapshot at the beginning of your resume, after your career summary, and after your skill set. So the person who reads your resume can see where you've been, which position you had, and place the country as well where you were, because it is a fact. Australian market, and especially Australian companies, tend to value a bit more what has been done in the local market, or are more appreciating experience in the UK or in the US that's in some other countries, for instance. So, or Singapore, they like it as well, or Hong Kong. But if it's France, Italy, Germany, Spain, they can think that it's not the same market. They tend to think that for quite a majority of them. So put where in which country, that when we read, we can go directly with the experience which is the most interesting for the position. And then the person who read your resume, keep reading your resume. Okay. Maybe we're gonna keep the question for the end, and oops, sorry. Yep. Yes. Another thing, sorry, it goes a bit quickly. Yep. Is missing key local favorite elements is the skill set. It's good to have, like, you have your name, details, and job title, and below your career summary, and below same like a frame with your skill set, professional skill set and soft skills. Okay, soft skills is important. The idea is not to lie on your skill set, but to adjust your skill set to the job you are applying, matching your own personality. Soft skills can be achiever, flexible, doer, relationship builder. It's important to not lie, but it's important to adjust, because you can't do a list of 10, 15, otherwise it's going to be not really good to read, but picked. Most of them are in the job ad, the key points. So just mix and match with what represents you the best. As well, in terms of the visa, if you are an international, what we often see is either people don't put their visa, or don't put clearly their visa status. Interestingly, the one who are in PR and citizenship forget often to place it, it needs to appear on the top and below your name. Your name may not sound very Australian, so a lot, and especially in recruitment agencies, we say, oh, okay, working holiday visa or student visa or whatever, depending on the length of the experience. It's a big plus. Put it. If you don't have yet a PR or citizenship, and if you are on other type of visa, don't be scared to put it as well, because it's important. At Polyglot, we will give a ring if your profile sounds interesting, because we are used to work with international workforce, but not all the recruitment agencies will do it. And we are agile navigating with visa, because we do visa immigration for corporate, but not all agencies are also those other departments. So, and be precise. You are not a visa, an immigration expert in front of you reading your resume. So if you have full right to work without sponsorship, write it. If it's a de facto visa or a partner visa, a TSS partner visa, it means that you have full right to work, write it as well. Like that, it leverage. The idea is for you to have the first call to be able to convince your future employer or the recruiter that you are good to go for an interview. So let's not put those visa around that, and don't be neither afraid, because at the moment, even people in TSS where before where could appear a bit less likable for local Australian companies, are more and more attractive for them because of the shortage of international workforce. So, and it's cheaper to take over a visa than to have to sponsor from scratch someone. Right. Now, some few tips very linked to the pandemic that we notice in the resume, which is good, is the communication skills. We all became minor or less tech savvy. It's important to really emphasize that in your resume. With remote work or partially remote work in a lot of companies, what are you familiar to use since the pandemic? Slack, Teams, Skype, anything. It needs to appear in it. Your future employer needs to see that, okay, if he has to onboard you a bit remotely, or you will be quite quickly adaptable and quite quickly operational, even remotely. Okay. In terms of another tool that recruiter really like is LinkedIn. When we do events, it's mainly on Seek and LinkedIn. So it's always good to have your LinkedIn link on your resume, where we can go a bit more seeing as well your LinkedIn profile. So pamper well your LinkedIn profile, it is important. And on the LinkedIn, you can have a photo, a very professional photo. Be careful of what type of photo you put on your LinkedIn, because we see often it gives a first impression. In terms of your faculty of adjustment with the pandemic, with your last line in your resume or the role you are in, if you, through the pandemic, you have to take over side responsibility because your company has downsized their employees or your team has been downsized, or you had extra work to face the pandemic in terms of the business to adjust your task to matching better with the current market, it is a great element to prove your agile you are in as a professional, and it needs to appear in your resume. It's a really a big plus that at the moment recruiters are looking for, and as well that employer are looking for. Are you resilient to the change? And it sounds really basic, but include a title in your resume. So that's why you need silver resume. I know it's not easy when it's a general application, but you need to make decision. Or when you approach someone on LinkedIn, a manager that you feel you would love to work within the company, target a job title which resonates for that company or for that service, but not many titles in the same resume. What to transpire in your resume? Remote work skill. If you had experience in remote working, express it. It can be since your resume. Tech savvy, time management is very important when you work remotely. So it's everything which can give idea how you work with time management, especially if you are a bit more junior, is quite important. Autonomous, well, if you are senior management or exec, we are expecting that you are autonomous and you have a good time management. So it depends where you are at in your career, but it can be really important that it transpire. In terms of adaptability, transpire agility when you exchange with a recruiter or with companies. It's really important. We want people who can really deal with complexity at the moment, who can be agile and flexible in the way they organize their work. Express how did you succeed in challenges with remote onboarding. If you have faced a remote onboarding, or if you have a manager who had to onboard remotely, it's important to communicate on it on your resume. Or if you are a candidate who has been onboarded remotely and you're on a contract, for instance, and you need to find another contract, express it. It's a plus compared to someone who not face that. And well express your biggest achievement in each line of your career. Now, we move from face-to-face to a lot of virtual hiring process. Talent acquisition specialist has been familiar with that way to interview for a while. It has been increased now, but companies are getting, obviously through the pandemic, had to jump into it more and more. It has some positive things. It's fastened the process, but the negative part is as well that it's the body language, the way you would present yourself and so on. It can be a bit harder to pass in through virtuals and when it's through a face-to-face, and someone can welcome you at the door and start the chat from the door to the meeting room. So you need to get ready. It's really important to get ready. If there is some future employer listening to us, you also need to be ready, because we also have a lot of comments from candidates about future employer not being very ready for the virtual meeting, and so it needs to be both sides. So we decided to show a bit what are the current challenge and mistake in a way in the virtual type of interview. So you need to know as a candidate that now more than 60% of the hiring manager use video interviews. Some companies still promote face-to-face interview, at least before offering the position, but they got used to it and they find it as well better to organize during the day. You also have to know that people tend to go back to the office, so face-to-face will not disappear totally, and we predict it would be a mix. Often first step would be remote, and after face-to-face toward the final stage. I would say that preparation is key. You need to make a great first impression, and we know it's harder through video than through a face-to-face for a lot. What is important is be careful with a bad camera focus. Often we see people, I'm going to do that, but how many times the team is interviewing people who are like this, or we saw the sky. Just try to have to make sure you are well in the frame, so your interviewer could see you almost like if you would be face-to-face. Keep your focus as well with eyes contact. It's really important for the body language. Having nearby distraction. So we know it's not easy to, when you are working from home, to not have back noise or especially if you live in apartments, or to have like the neighbor deciding to drill when it's your interview time, or the delivery ringing at the bell. There is few tips. Just if it's a very important interview, a job you really dream about, maybe that's worth to knock at the door a bit the day before to your neighbors to ask if you can have a quiet moment for an hour at that time. Put as well a message on your bell saying that do not disturb, I'm on an interview, I'm a very key meeting, do not ring the bell, leave a message or whatever. That's can be important. Make sure you are in a quiet room with a good connection. If and often as well, if you interview for international company and the last stage is with the HQ based outside of Australia, and you had face-to-face interview along the process, can be good if you're not sure to have the best condition at home, to ask the company if they can fit a meeting room for you to have that last stage with the HQ, because every steps count. With the recruiter, we are a bit more familiar with all those little unexpected back noise and so on, and we know how to assess talents outside of this, but still. Presentation skill is key, and I would say even in lockdown. As a recruiter, we have a lot of funny stories to say through lockdown with candidates, or even with some partners back in Europe, where the lockdown has been a bit bigger. After weeks and weeks of being locked down, the change in the presentation during our video meeting. Present yourself exactly the same way that if you go on site of the company. You need to match your dress code with the sector of industry you are specializing, type of position. I mean, do as if you would do normally. It's not because it's remote that you need to be more late back, and try to avoid pattern and stripe, because sometimes it creates weird effect on the camera, and black color has already always a bit of a plus. Be careful as well of a messy room and dark light. Be good to clear out a bit what's around your frame before the meeting. It's again to give the first good impression. Opportunities in the current trend. So the situation is not forever. We can really see in our teams and with colleagues from other recruitment companies that there is a trend, and there is more and more opportunity back since July, and especially since August, September. We can clearly see a peak. Several reasons. Some companies went a bit drastically through restructuration, and some because of cash flow and making sure going through the tunnel. Some taking advantage as well to have a team reflecting better the new challenge of the economic context, and as well. We really face with international workforce, especially over the last months. We can see more and more people in place resigning to their role to go back home. It's really like, and it's really interesting. We are talking a lot about it, the impact on the mental health, and as well on being stuck in a way in the country, not being able to go back to see relatives when we live so far away, or family who are separated. We start to see impact with the partner saying that the expat doesn't want to resign another contract, want to go back home because they have kids at uni they didn't see for a year, and it's going to be another year likely they're not going to see them. Also people without kids who just miss families and say even after 6-9 years wants to just go back home. So means that for the one who remain and for who Australia is a place to be, there is opportunity re-emerging. As well, we observe that 42% of companies that has been surveyed are pivoting their strategy, but very few feel that they have enough staff at the moment. In all the companies, people are really under the water because market is picking up and don't have enough resources. So we can see the momentum, even if sales roles and even in marketing, what has been quite affected in terms of position when it was not pure digital, start to picking up. We start to re-enter some position. Obviously, some sector and type of role are more in high demand. If you are in finance, it's still very strong. Sector like where Elena is working as well very closely in construction infrastructure is really good. Energy renewable, but even FMCG is picking up. Retail has not that suffered, like people change their way to buy, but as they are stuck in Australia, tend to buy much more. So there's still a good opportunity. And HR, we had a lot of requests in contract when restructuration plan and so on, and a bit less now, but and technical roles and senior management position are still in high demand because you need strong and efficient leaders through that pandemic. Now something a bit to close and more maybe dedicated for the employer to have in mind with that candidate market. So a lot, even us at the beginning in April, was thinking, okay, it's going to be an employer market with how life will be easier than ever. We're going to have spot on candidate quickly placing. No, it's not that easy. You need to have a clear strategy to attract talents. People need more reassurance to join your company. So company culture is really key. We keep having in request in all level of position, but in all, what will be the flexibility post-COVID in the future employer? People really switch in terms of the ways they see the work organization, and not necessarily linked with the kids or whatever. For anyone, they really want to know remote work policy. And it's not to have only, people are not asking to be fully remote, but they want to know it's really common now that people ask to work only 2-3 days maximum from the office and to have at least 2 days on remote work to feel attracted by an opportunity. Expectation of candidates are reinforced, as we say. Flexibility, well-being and mental health are more important than perks that you will offer at the office at the moment. We are not at the stage that much when we speak with candidates or to the company has a futsal table or ping pong table, I don't know how you say that in English, but or offer like organic juice every morning to the team. It's not what really people have in mind at the moment. It's more about how stable is the company, how strong is the company, what flexibility, what is put into place for the well-being, mental health of the employee. We have a lot of questions about what the company went through COVID, any restructuration happened, and so on. So it's quite important. The hiring process needs to be very clear and reassuring, because when the length is too long, it's been always true in Australia, but candidates need to think twice and need to tend to feel even more than before that it's a lack of decision making in the future employer, and have second thought. You also need to get ready, yes, with the salary, as we said, because people tend to not reduce their expectation in that market. The candidate experience will be key for your branding as well. There's also people out of work at the moment. It's really not easy. They face rejection, but they are good talents, and the way they will be treated in the process. Don't forget, it can be the candidates that you dream about tomorrow. So good feedback is important, giving feedback. So it's really key. not waiting, make them wait for too long for a reply. And it's hard when there is high volume of candidature to treat. And that's where the importance to pick an excellent talent acquisition partner for external assistance is even more key in that context, because make sure you pick someone who will represent your brand when talking with candidates about your opportunity in the best manners and will treat very well those candidates. Do not hesitate as an employer to work in exclusivity, because when there is heaps of agencies on the same role, you select CV shooters and not people who have time to take care of candidates, or unlikely. So it's all the thing take into consideration. And we advise as well to work on retention, even more than before, because even in that COVID crisis, we really feel like our Australian partner clients were more reluctant to employ outside of certain level of job or very technical job, people with visa or short-term visa who are just 2 years remaining, are much more open. And we can see that they ask us now if we have those type of candidates they are willing to consider, where a year before those same ones were not really willing to consider. So if you have workforce as well, and you went through difficult times as well, tough time in the business, and you have workforce in visa and TSS and so on, I think it's good to check that everyone is on board and happy, because they are more likable than before. And if you are in that type of candidate with TSS and or other type of visa, postgraduate visa, when you can work 2 years without restriction, there is hope. There is really good opportunities out there as well. Also because it's harder to have people coming from outside. So we can see as well with international companies developing here, they didn't stop necessarily the expansion, they just change a bit the way they see the expansion, willing to take more local workforce directly before standing expat, because there is they can see that the market and the management of coding is better in this side of the world. So there is good opportunity for their business, which is struggling in Europe or other parts of the world. Okay, train your team for remote management as well. It's not easy to manage remotely or to be managed remotely. So training as well is a good part for retention when we can't really offer a salary review or so on, because it's been a difficult year. There is also a way to retain good employees, praising, virtual company culture feed as well. So as we say, the organic juice and I don't know, the yoga free class on site may not be as attractive at the moment, but there is plenty of other way to keep alive your company culture virtually, with employees being not all together at the office at the same time. So I think if you identify some potential very good employee in your team, work well with them because they might be more easily pushed than ever. And I thank you for your time. And if you have questions, we're gonna. I hope this has been a bit helpful. If you have more specific questions, we are happy to.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you so much, Elena, as well. Yes, so attendees, if you are, if you want to ask questions, feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. I believe we had a comment from Aurore during the conference. I'm not sure if it has been highlighted, but I think it's a good thing. And working at Fachi, we know that connection are very important. But of course, every connection you have in Australia, friends, colleague, will help you a lot during this process of research for a job. Especially, it was before COVID a reality, in fact, even more now. What do you think, Valerie?
Yeah, totally. I think it's really important to there's still very good opportunities on the market, and to work on your networking has never been as key. Try to make a connection with employer as well. I mean, dare to try. Obviously, if you approach people and asking for a job, they might not go and have a coffee with you, but there is a way to get interested in their organization or sector of activity. It's also important. And Fachi is really great, like to meet with people in the community, and it's not only for French people. There is a lot of multicultural talents and employers. So even if it's virtual events, you make really good connection even in virtual events. People are in lack of social interaction.
Yes, correct. You're right, indeed. And hopefully we will be able to have social gathering and more face-to-face event soon. And we are going to start tomorrow, in fact, tomorrow night. So after 7 months, it is great. We had a question, Elena, Valérie, in terms of for VIE, do you advise an English or French format? I think it's pretty clear to understand that you need both, no?
Yeah, exactly. We would advise both, definitely, because it's important to have a French version in case you're applying for a job in a French company, but also as it is.
You are on
yeah, but it's
okay.
Now that we can hear you.
Yeah, but also, of course, to have a French version, but also an English one, because you are applying in Australia, and it's an international experience as well, and visa. So we advise both of them.
All right, I've seen that, Elena, you would like to respond to this question about the PR. Do you think that not having the PR is a real obstacle to finding a job in Australia?
No, it's not, because there are opportunities for everyone, to be honest. So you have to, let's say, target the opportunities that are more suitable. In some positions, you can see that are accepted all the applications, so there are no visa restrictions. Therefore, I think it's very important to target the right opportunity. And yes.
Well, when you are on the visa, if you don't have the PR, and especially if you don't have a long line in Australia, is what we say, but to all nationalities, and we all went through that at Polyglot. We are very international team. It's hard, but it's different. When you are sent by a company as an expat, even if it's local contract or expat, you are in a career continuity. When you arrive in a country, in a new country, and sorry, I'm always very transparent, people are not waiting for you. There is good Australian talent as well. And you need to prove yourself. So you need to be ready to step back a bit, to move back forward even faster. The good point is this job market compared to let's say some French market or Italian market. Elena is has been a recruiter as well for a long time in Italy, is that you progress faster. You have more opportunities room to expand. So you need to forget a bit where you were at, because sometimes they want to recognize what's been done here. It's a bit different if you work in the UK. Usually you have more continuity, or if you work in the US, it's a bit different. But step back a bit, be a bit more greedy in terms of your salary, and you will catch up. And if you have a good employer, it will reward the performance as well, and you will have a better chance as well. And on visa is to explain as well your visa. It's hard sometimes to explain, but you need also be dare to try, and if you know a bit what is the cost to take over your visa from your employer to the other one, you can present, because sometimes employers think it's really expensive to take over and complex to take over a visa, where it can sometimes take just 1 week, and depending on how many people are on your visa, but can be from 3K. So just negotiate in your salary eventually, to reduce a bit your salary expectation for the person, or be open to contract. In contract, people can try and see how good professional you are as well. Contract is a good point for people on visa.
I may add something to this, Valerie, and I think, but that's my point of view. It's personal, but I think yes, contract and everything around interim and this kind of thing is a good solution as well to have it in the job. Personally, and I share that with all of you, I've started not at French, but 6 years ago in a private company with a 1 week contract, which at the end was 6 years in the same company. So it is something important, and maybe sometimes to review also our expectation. When we arrived in Australia, we want the same job than in France, we want the same salary, we want the same function, role, or responsibility, and sometimes a small step back will allow you to go above and beyond what you were thinking. And it is hard for people to do that.
Yes, and for some culture, it's harder than some other, depending of which country you come from. And then people can sponsor you as well. If you are, for instance, on a working holiday visa or on a student visa, you are limited by the number of hours. But it was a good plan if you are on a partner student visa and your partner is studying a master, because you have full right to work. But even on working holiday visa, you can work 6 months with the same employer. We have plenty of our clients who were open to working holiday visa for a contract and sponsored those amazing talents after the 6 months, giving the chance to the sponsorship. So I know it's hard, because we can be very quickly into the spiral of working in totally different fields that what we are prepared to. We see so many working holiday visa, very qualified or talented, getting stuck, and there is in hospitality job as waitress or nannying or babysitter, which is very great. I mean, it's a great job, but where when you interview them, what they dream is to settle in Australia, and a year of working holiday visa goes so fast when the job is a full-time job, to find a job, and we see how many we see to have to go back to their career back in France or other country, but can't really use what they did here, because if you are, I don't know, like a marketing associate or account manager, except you pampered a bit your English for a year or 6 months, the fact you work as a waiter or babysitter didn't bring that much in your career if you want to keep progressing. So make sure your time management in your search, if you are on a limited timing visa, it's really, really important. And if you go through student visa, make sure, I know there is a lot of businesses for studying and staying longer, make sure what you study, because it's pricey, bring you something. Or try to study clever, study something which can give access to PR, for instance.
Thank you, Valerie. No, it is important to remind this. And if I may say, Elena, Valerie, Michelle asked us if you will recommend people, a candidate, to attach their visa entitlement verification online, the Vivo, to their resume.
Yes. What we do in our case, we always ask a justification of visa of candidates, for instance. So I think it's important to have everything ready. And in any case, when someone is under a visa, at some point in the process, we check.
Yeah, and nothing worse to be at the last round of interview and saying, oops, I forgot to mention. All right, another question. We got 2 more questions, I think, and after we'll have to close, but really insightful discussion. Thank you so much. One of our attendees asked a question about cover letter, and I will go a little bit further. Do you think, so her question, I'm not sure who it is, it's anonymous, it's a key point. What's the key point on a cover letter? But also I would like to extend this question to, are we in a volume game in terms of recruitment? Do I have to send a lot to receive a response? So I may not be able to tailor my application every time, or should I be qualified and really target and do less volume?
Look, in terms of cover letter, to be honest with you, I know some application required you to provide a cover letter, especially sometimes big group, like you have all the processes, like it takes like 2 days to fill up the application online. I think what is key is your resume, especially with the volume of candidatures that we have to treat. To have a side cover letter is not necessarily required. Yes, it depends. For instance, if it's a bilingual type of position and you are not native speaker, we will ask a motivation letter to see a bit how you handle your writing skills in a non-native language. But what is important is when you shoot your CV to a recruiter or to a professional, it doesn't need to be a joint cover.
Sorry, you are on mute. Virginie. Yes.
A cover letter, but an email of introduction. The way you introduce yourself with your resume is really key. Be sharp, be concise, and as well in the process, show your professional ethos all along the way. And first to show it is to the recruiter. Follow up. Yeah, it's just like it appears like pretty old-fashioned, but the way you will treat your candidature will show the way, like if you work in sales, you will do account management or business development or politics you can be, so it's really important. And we will assess a bit the motivations through that as well, more than through a long cover letter.
Thank you.
Last question. Tell us something about your attitude and your behavior, how you usually behave.
And commitment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Last question, but not least. Oh, there is another question.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Do you hear me?
Sorry.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Because you need to put your volume up.
All right.
I think. Do you hear us, Elena? Virginie?
Let me
try
to reconnect. Joy of the
Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Can't we hear?
Time you join us. There is the last question.
Just 1 second. Thank you.
Do you hear us, Elena?
Oh, we need Alex, our tech savvy.
But there is a last question to the attendee.
Alex to the rescue.
A last question from the attendee, but
I think he heard me.
They say what is the best way to contact employer in Australia? LinkedIn, door-to-door, extra. While you are joining us, I may start the response because as a general manager, I received a few candidates and application every week, and not only for Fachi, but to work for other employer. Really, LinkedIn is a great tool, but LinkedIn allow you to work on a volume game again. You can apply very easily on LinkedIn. And when you see the volume of application for jobs, they're very high. Most probably, once you post an ad on LinkedIn, your recruiter will receive 150, 200 applications within a couple of hours. Door-to-doors, it will be to a specific, I guess. Hi, Valerie, you join us again.
Perfect.
I was already starting to respond to the last question, but not least.
Okay, perfect.
It was a question about how to contact employer. The best way to contact the employer here in Australia between LinkedIn, door-to-door, and this kind of thing. And I was starting by saying, because I was general manager, I received a lot of application as well. Door-to-door is a great, LinkedIn is great tools, but I trust that within a couple of hours, an employer will receive around 150 to 200 applications on LinkedIn. So again, the question is, what would be the best way to be in touch with the employer? LinkedIn is one of the ways, but should we have a direct contact? Should we go through the internal website of this company? Should we invite the HR manager of the company in question on LinkedIn to have a proper discussion first, or it is too intrusive? And last but not least, how we can contact Polyglot too to help us. And on this, that will be the end.
All right. Look, in terms of, especially if you, I don't know, I think it's multicultural in front of us audience, but in Anglo-Saxon market, people dare to ask. Okay, so it's just the way you will ask a contact. Put you in the shoes of this employer. What would make you, if you would be the hiring manager, what would make you to have an interest? What would you like to discover of the person, or what information? You need to bring insight, speak about the market or the sector, or have a question of the expertise. I would say before asking, as I say, the coffee or the interview, I speak directly for companies, not with us. But I think it's important for you to have like a sharp message, not too long, and as well, what will you bring in that message? What is the purpose? Like in a way, like if you would be that person you want to reach, what would make you think that that person is different than the 10 requests of connections that you receive during the day. And so I think that's what is really important. It's not to do in mass, but to target and target, for instance, the direct line management, that target the team you would like to work for in the company of your dream, and who would be your manager in that company. And don't forget the HR, because otherwise it's not going to be happy. But if it doesn't work, don't neither request contact or ask for an interview to 10 people of the same company on the same week. People, even if we work remotely, still the coffee machine somehow, or Zoom meeting or whatever. And it's really, you need as well to appear like a bit unique in a way, that it's targeting and not volume. So make sure that's why you take your time to say, who is the best person for my project that I should try to connect in that company. Obviously, if within people are busy, so they can't always reply within 24 hours, but if less than a week they didn't reply, send another message. Don't send 10 messages, because then you appear like to be very intense as well, and it can be not good. But try another message. Obviously, if the person doesn't pick up still, then it's time to try another one in the company. But that would be as a tactic. But dare to approach and go on those virtual events as well, when after maybe more face-to-face event will be able, because you can really show your personality and what you have. A lot of juniors find their first job like that because there's no experience to sell. I personally found my first job at Mars Group like that, at the agriculture big event in Paris, going on the booth and going to chat about products and stuff. So it works, but it's a way. You need to have content in what you say. It's quite important. To reach us, you can Google, you will find us very quickly, and meet with the team who are very approachable. And usually on our job ad, there is a consultant in charge of the job as well, that you can reach out. If I can give an advice when you reach out recruiter out of the blue, we don't have your LinkedIn profile in our head necessary. Even if you applied 2 days ago, if we receive like 60 application, we don't have all the profile in mind. So when you call out of the blue, we may just enter in a meeting and an interview or whatever. Ask if it's the right moment for starting to tell all your career history, precise which job you are interested in, or if you want to have a contact for career purpose, and ask for a meeting. And send your resume like that, because for us it's wasting time to speak when we don't have your resume in front, or having a quick look, or except if we left you a message because we try to reach you for a position. But if it's out of the blue, get prepared as well.
Thank you, Valérie. Thank you. And yes, I agree with you on all you said regarding the targeting and volume game and everything. And for the short story as well, my first job in Australia, I found it in the social gathering, this 1 week contract. which means, you need to get out as well. And hopefully we will be able to get out more often soon. Thank you all for sharing your insight, and to our attendee. If I may, I will thank to our attendee around also the virtual table, and let you know about the program upcoming in 25 minutes. So within the next 25 minutes, you can still go to the booth and the industry lounge. The booth of Polyglot, there's some people online at the moment. If you have last question, you can have private chat as well. And this afternoon, 2 p.m. Sydney time, 2 different conferences. One about circular economy with Danone, Schneider Electric, Pierre Fabre as a group, and Suez. And at the same time, conference around the future of travel and travel experience, which is a big topic. And around the table, we will have Patrick Benamou from Atout France, the CEO of Lagardère Travel Retail Pacific and CEO of Accor Pacific, which all have been impacted by this situation, but will give insight about what will be the future of this travel. And to conclude this day at 5 p.m., we will have a conference about a very important topic nowadays, how can transport be sustainable? Some of you may have seen some news about the Hyperloop from Virgin yesterday, Tesla, all initiative, Airbus, hydrogen plane, everything. So let's see what it will be about the future of sustainability in transport with Transdev, NGNZ, Scott Lister, Mark Scott, the managing director of Scott Lister, Sistra, and the CEO of JetCharge. Very interesting discussion. And Tim Washington will explain his business at JetCharge and all this electric, appliance you have in all this petrol station at the moment, brewing everywhere in Australia. So a good planning for this afternoon, and of course tomorrow and Friday. So thank you all. Thank you so much for being with us. We hope you attended, you learned something today, and feel free to keep the discussion further with Polyglot Group. We are all waiting.
Thank you, Jérôme, and thank you, Zafachi, for the opportunity as well. It's great. Your event is fantastic for the community, I think.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much, all. Have a good day.
Bye. Bye.